Well, that's the exhibition of the fear of the Lord. Secondly, the motivation. And I'm going to speak even faster. I always feel bad for our dear interpreters because it gives them a little arthritic condition doing all this, because they say I talk very fast. But this is so important, I don't want you to miss it. The motivation is that fearing the Lord comes when we see God. How do we see God in the Scriptures? Number one, Deuteronomy 10:14. I want to read it to you. You might want to turn there. Deuteronomy 10 says this. We are motivated to fear God, number one, when we see how great He is, when we see His greatness. Listen to Deuteronomy 10:14. Indeed, heaven and the highest heavens belong to the Lord your God. Also the earth and all that is in it. Verse 17. The Lord your God is a God of gods, a Lord of lords, a great God. He is mighty. He is awesome. He shows no partiality. And by the way, He doesn't take any bribes. Did you know what religion is? Religion is bribing God. You ever think about that? God didn't invent religion. He revealed Himself. He didn't invent religion. Religion is saying, God, now if I do this and this and this, and if I don't eat that, and if I go here, and if I burn that, and if I give this, and if I try real hard, you let me in? Religion is bribing God. God doesn't take bribes. He only takes full payment. And Jesus paid it all. And all to Him we owe. Fearing God is seeing God's greatness. Here's another one. Listen to Isaiah 40:26. Lift up your eyes on high, Isaiah said. See who created the stars, the one who leads forth their hosts by number. He calls them all by name. Because of the greatness of His might and the strength of His power, not one of them is missing. Now that's powerful. I mean, people on earth can write books about there is no God, and they can look in their telescopes and they can say, I don't see Him out there. And then they can die of cancer and meet Him. But if they don't acknowledge His greatness and fear Him here, it's too late. And I'll tell you what, I would rather die scoffed on by the world and thought to be ridiculous because of this weakness that you have to depend on something other than yourself and know the Creator of the stars than to spend my whole life trying to figure out how they all got here without God. Because God has revealed Himself to us, His greatness. Secondly, we are motivated to fear God when we see the awesome wonders He's done. Listen to this, Joshua 4:23 and 24. His greatness out there. But what's He done nearby? Joshua 4:23 and 24 says that fearing God is seeing His awesome wonders. For the Lord, Joshua said, your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which He dried up before us until we had crossed over, that all the peoples of the earth may know the hand of the Lord, that His hand is mighty, and that you may fear the Lord your God forever. It was interesting, in Time magazine a few years ago, they were doing an article on why you could not possibly believe that this book was true. And that was the cover story. It was talking about, that people don't believe the Bible as much as they used to. It was during the big push for inerrancy that was going on in Chicago in the 80s. And in the same Time magazine that had that, there was also an article about the premier work being done by the Jews in their archaeological excavations down in Eilat, down on the Red Sea, where they're finding all the evidences of metallurgy and smelting and everything. And what the article said, written by a rank liberal, an unbeliever, an Israeli archaeologist, it said, we have uncovered this week in Eilat the remains of the Midianite smelting. And then it went on to say, the Midianites are a little-known people that were not even believed to have existed until recently, although they have been in the Bible for the last 2,000 years. I thought, here the whole issue was about you can't trust the Bible, and yet a liberal archaeologist that doesn't believe God at all said, these people have been in the Bible since 1400 B.C., written. And it's the only place they were, and no one believed they existed until we found them last week. God is great. And we just have to see His awesome wonders. He really did dry up the waters of the Jordan. He really did dry up the Red Sea. They really did walk across on dry land. And God did it so all the peoples of the earth would fear Him. Do you fear Him today? Thirdly, fearing God is seeing His goodness. 1 Samuel 12:24 says, only fear the Lord and serve Him in truth with all your heart. For consider what great things He's done for you. We fear God because He's so good. Dr. Morris at lunch last week told us that he grew up in a powerful Christian home. His father is a tremendous scholar of the Word, written some of the best commentaries I've ever written on Genesis, Job, and Revelation. And he grew up in that home, and he said he couldn't wait to get out and live like the devil. He moved out as soon as he could, left home, and went and just lived like an animal in Los Angeles. And he said he used to walk around L.A. as a wild, drugging, drinking guy, and he'd shake his fist and say, God, if you ever want me, you're going to have to strike me with lightning. Shouldn't have said that. You heard him say he got struck with lightning. Now, God doesn't always do that. I'll tell you what, the reason he doesn't is he's so good and so patient and so merciful. And we should fear God because we see his goodness. We see what we deserve that we don't get. Fourthly, we should fear God because we're seeing his mercy. Psalm 130 and verse 4 says, but there is forgiveness with you, that you may be feared. We should fear the only one that can forgive us. So many people are in hospitals, mental institutions. They're in all kinds of therapy because they're dealing with guilt. They're dealing with the crushing load of guilt. And they're looking to everything except the one that can forgive them, that can take away their guilt. And God is to be feared because we see his mercy. Also, we should fear God when we see his wrath. Revelation 14:7 says, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and the springs of water. Why is that? Because everything's falling apart in the tribulation time, and God's wrath is poured out. And when you see God's wrath, you should fear him. Well, in conclusion, the last point. If we see the manifestation of God's glory, the exhibition of it, what's our obligation? Well, I want to share this with you because it's really been on my heart. Because I studied this week, the fear of the Lord should prompt a holy response. And once a servant of God sees God's holiness and responds to it, God has big plans for that servant. In fact, the greatest life there can be lived is knowing that you are in step with the Spirit of God and you're following God's plan. I mean, it gives you great confidence. It gives you great joy. It gives you great fulfillment in life. But, you know, some people miss that. And I thought this morning that as we talk about the fear of God, we should lastly look at what hinders us from being useful servants of God